Welcome, friends. I'm Tanya Long, and this is Reset. Each week, we share conversations with thought leaders, innovators, and the dreamers and doers who are reshaping the future of work, technology, longevity, and purpose. So settle in and let's explore what happens when purpose meets possibility.
Welcome to Reset, where purpose meets possibility. We are here live in the studio in gorgeous, sunny, beautiful blue sky Los Gatos. And this is not a recording, although I say that every show because it is just so beautiful here. I am here today with a friend, Jim Recker, who is part of my Change the World Technology Network that I think you're all familiar with. Jim has a couple of decades of sales experience, and that's why I'm so fascinated with Jim, because I've always been an operator. And Jim is a classic sales leader. But if you can see Jim, if you watch the podcast later, you'll see Jim's not a young founder. Jim is, like I said, he had a couple of decades at least with companies like WebEx, BlueJeans. You were one of my competitors at one point when I was at Avaya, as the video craze was coming through. But now Jim is I think it's interesting, he's at a place in his life where most people are running toward retirement. And instead, Jim's founded a new company. He's a CEO for the first time, I believe, and is building some of the newest technology with agentic agents handling product go-to-market. So I think it's fascinating that here, when a lot of people are thinking about rocking chairs and more camping, Jim's looking at how to build a whole new ecosystem in the world of how we go to market digitally and autonomously using AI agents. So Jim, welcome. It is so good to have you here.
It's so great to be here. I'm so excited to be here. It's been something that I've been thinking about for the last couple of weeks, especially since we got postponed last week. But the one thing that I actually find most exciting is that we are together. And yes, to put things in perspective, and for those who can see me, I'm old enough to say that I saw Led Zeppelin live on stage.
That's a great way to categorize your age. At least it wasn't the Grateful Dead, though I suspect you might have seen a couple of those shows as well.
I used to tour with the Grateful Dead, so it's a whole other story.
We could talk about that, and I think the audience would be much more interested in the Grateful Dead stories than the AI agentic stories. Do you want to start with one Grateful Dead story?
I got, I'll call it suckered into it because I put together a video reel for a friend of mine who was directing the video for the Grateful Dead. And they saw the video, they hired my friend, and they said, well, who edited the video? And Jim did. So, okay, well, Jim should come on tour with us. So I went on tour with them for a couple of years. And I was supposed to do a show in September of 95. And I got to work. I was working for a small startup. And the front desk said, oh, I'm so sorry about Jerry. I'm going, what do you mean? Oh, you heard he passed, right? I'm like, no. And I just got called up last night to work Shoreline. Unfortunately, Jerry had passed. And that was the end of my touring with the Grateful Dead.
Yeah. Wow. But that's a good story. So I have a lightning round that I've started doing. It's a lot of fun at the end. But I think I have a really good lightning style question right now. If you could do that again and tour with anyone who's a current living performing artist now, who would you want to go out on the road with?
Nobody that actually pops to mind, and I don't think I would want to go on the road. It's a hard job.
Well, yeah, we've been traveling executives with companies, so everyone thinks travel is so sexy, and really it is a slog.
It's a slog
on your body, your family. Yeah,
a lot of work and no sleep. So it's something I wouldn't do. I'll think about one maybe by the end of the show.
Yeah, you have somebody pop into your mind. I don't see a lot of shows, but I tend to see the really big ones. And if I live right across from SAP, and that's a major concert venue in the Bay Area. And so I picked up StubHub tickets like 45 minutes before the show's supposed to start. And the last show I deeply enjoyed was the Queen touring act with Adam Lambert. And we were sitting at the pool. It was somebody's birthday. And what an amazing performance by Adam Lambert and by most of the original members of the Queen band. And it was magical to watch them perform. And so that's some music back from the time periods that you're talking about.
I'll go to a show, but I'm not going to work them anymore.
But you're not going to work them anymore. No. You're just going to enjoy.
Exactly.
I love it. Well, speaking of work, I'm not in a public conversation these days without agentic AI coming up. I was at an industry panel last night about M&A and AI. And what struck me is how, even though we're in the Bay Area and we're in a bubble where everybody seems to talk tech at some level because they're either in tech or adjacent, there is still a big difference in what people know and what they think they know and where they operate in conversations. So what has been, you're moving into Agentic AI, which is the super fast F1 race car right now on the AI front. But I'm still surprised at how many people don't understand Agentic AI and don't know quite how to frame it in our technological journey.
Yep. So it's quite simple. I tell people, no, it's very simple, quite frankly. Generative AI, which has been around for a good number of years so far, is reactive. So you have to create a prompt. That's the concept behind generative AI.
Yeah.
And where the challenge is with most people is they don't know how to put together a prompt. I've actually been hired to teach people on how to do prompts. I've actually been hired by large corporations to help them adopt AI, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever. It doesn't mean they're all the same. Well, they're not all the same. That's a whole other story. But the prompting is the challenge for most people. And there are some companies that are still just starting up. I went to I won't say which vendor it was. It's one of the largest companies here in the Bay Area, and they had an accelerator event, and people flew in from Los Angeles, and I was shocked just because they wanted to learn how to prompt.
Yeah.
But that's generative AI.
Yeah.
Now, agentic AI, on the other hand, that's proactive, and it's autonomous.
Yeah.
And the best way to describe it is imagine creating what I'll call robots, and you set them off on tasks, and they know how to do their tasks, and they don't require any rest. Perfect for setting up concerts, by the way. But that is the primary difference, proactive versus reactive. And the proactive stuff has me fascinating because it's still in its infancy. And yes, not many people know about it, certainly people outside the Silicon Valley. But it will be taking over our lives. And in my opinion, I think this will be a revolution larger than I'll call it the Industrial Revolution in the 1800s.
And so, and this is, a lot of this is, I think it's influenced by the discussions I was in last night. I do think it's revolutionary. I agree. Help people understand, we technologists and futurists are still talking too conceptually. And I think that's why people are having trouble grasping what it really means for them. So what are a couple of ways agentic AI works that people can go, oh, I get that flow, that's agentic? What are just a couple of easy for the audience, because we have a really broad
I'll do a simple one, because I actually built a couple of agents a couple of months ago, so I had to learn myself what agents were all about, and I wanted to understand what made an agent. So the agent I built out ended up on a web page, is the best way of putting it. It was just online. And it didn't do very much, but you could say, what time is it and what's the weather? And so its task was to tell you the time and tell you the weather. That's all it was doing.
Now that's just a chat bot.
It's not a chat bot in the sense that I could add more features to it to create tone, to create personality, to create a number of different things that would be uniquely task related. And so if you think about it, a lot of the things that we do on our daily basis are task orientated.
Oh, 100%.
And so if you have an agent that can do those tasks for you, your productivity will skyrocket. And this is why the talk around the Silicon Valley and around the world already is that these agents, how will they impact the workforce? Because it's just a task. Now, bots are reactive because you're essentially asking them something that they've been trained to respond to. But agents can go out and go beyond that because they can do research on their own. And so, for instance, if it's not programmed to do that, you can program an agent to actually research for you. And the way I'm using it, the go-to-market cycles that I'm building, is that you will go out, for instance, if you needed to do some market intelligence, it will go out and do that for you. That's not reactive, it's proactive. And it's doing it autonomously as well.
There's a founder here in the Bay Area, and she has a company that she's famously here turned over her responsibilities as CEO to the agents that they've built.
Yeah.
Familiar with her?
I'm not, but I am not surprised.
And she does a brilliant job. It's clear to me that it is not 100% autonomously beings. We still require certain things, like the human showing up at a bank to sign a signature card. Things like that are the constructs of our society where the human still has to be in the loop. I think what she has done is she has marvelously identified all those task level things. She repeatedly does.
Right.
And often, as executives, we recall, we can have things that are in our mental model of the things we need to do weekly, daily, weekly, monthly. But other priorities come in and scoot those to the side. And we're getting them done on planes or at 6 a.m. before the meeting. So to take these repeatable tasks that a CEO does, the analysis, the check-ins, and to automate those things because they are repeatable. They do happen day in, week in, on a regular basis. I think it was brilliant for her to do that. And then publicly declare, I have turned the running of the company, the CEO role, over to our agent. And I think it's messaging what's coming.
Correct. There will be humans involved when there's human interaction that's required.
Yeah.
You mentioned SAP. At SAP is the San Jose Sharks. And I don't think it's public knowledge yet, but there will be fewer and fewer account execs working for the San Jose Sharks because they're not really necessary. I'm not going to say necessarily San Jose Sharks, but a whole bunch of areas that do sales for, I'll call it the standard exchange, the standard purchase, that even now, fewer and fewer account executives out there. Now, if you need to be somebody who's doing group sales, for instance, that's a different matter because then you're working on a personal relationship, working with a group of people. And in those scenarios, you'll still see humans. However, 10 years down the road, I can easily see agents taking over.
Yeah. How far did you say?
Well, I'll see even 5 years down the road.
You do?
Oh, I do.
Good.
I do. Absolutely.
Last night's panel was talking in frameworks of 10 to 20 years. And I was just trying to be polite and respectful, but I was like, oh no. 10 to 20 years, I think we won't recognize our business processes because so much will be under the hood.
I agree. And I will also add to that's already, I was reading an article last night about a group of people actually, that were programming agents to make their prompts better. And so they were getting prompts they were 10x more effective than the prompts they had started out with. And I'm thinking to myself, well, wait a second then. They essentially are able to accelerate whatever they were working on. Indeed, that's what they're doing. So the acceleration of what we do is going to be unrecognizable, I think, within 4 or 5 years.
And I think part of the credit for that goes to humans, not just building the technology, but sharing how to use it. I'm in a few WhatsApp channels and many LinkedIn channels where people are openly sharing their super prompt level ideas. And there was one yesterday that I was like, oh, this is a Mackenzie Bain killer, because it was this fairly lengthy prompt, but it was to create an entire portfolio analysis requiring agents, right, that go out. And the agents, this is not anything special per se. This is like deep research functionality already built into your major LLMs.
That's correct.
But and I did a copy paste of the prompt, just tucked in an industry vertical, I think I filled in like 5 fill in the blanks for what I wanted, and then watched it work for 10, 15 minutes, and it spit out a report that was analysis that Mackenzie and Bain would typically charge large dollars and quite a bit of time and energy from the company they're working for, and then expending that energy with their analysts to go dig up things. And I was like, wow, this is beautiful. And it was instant. It also means that things that as an executive I wouldn't have paid for because they weren't in budget for me to get Bain to go do an analysis. Now I, as a leader, can say, I want to look at this, and I can go make some coffee and come back to my desk and say, yep, that is the right pivot or that's not. So I think it really is going to speed decision-making for the people who learn to rely on these tools.
And then the question is, are they still going to be needed to make those decisions? Because an agent can make those decisions for them.
I think they'll be making different decisions.
I do too.
The CEO that I mentioned that had turned over her duties, what I hope is that it turns CEOs into better leaders because they're not second guessing. We know what it is. They're not second guessing their teams and running all these shadow IT ops analysis. They're leading humans and machines. That's a different conversation. But they are spending and investing more time in the human connection that is uniquely a capability they have to further the brand, to keep their employees that are human employees engaged, and to be strategic about direction.
But you've nailed down something that I feel is terribly important being a CEO, is that you have to have those emotional qualities as well.
Yeah.
And emotions is something that I don't think agents will be able to take over for a good time to come. We'll see it in the science fiction movies. Emotion is something that is not at all part of an agent right now. They're cold and calculated, as I put it.
Yeah. They're doing the work.
Yes, that's right.
But here's some work, if you will, in the industry that we're finding. Humans are responding better to digital inputs because it is unprovoked. I don't have the word, but it's unprovoked. It's an assessment. It's simply these numbers were missed. It is clinical, and people don't feel judged. So on the medical side, I'm a type 1 diabetic. I've talked about this before. I'm working with some companies where they're testing applications to give people almost real-time feedback. So you don't wait for your quarterly visit with your endocrinologist. And people are really receiving the feedback well when it comes into their phone because it's not the human doctor judging them for eating the wrong thing for breakfast and not bolusing correctly. It's just a readout, and it's like, yeah, I probably shouldn't have had that extra cantaloupe.
Well,
and
the two areas that I've seen that have had a huge impact, ChatGPT being used by teenagers for therapy, hugely popular.
Yes.
And the other thing, I was talking to a friend of mine the other day who does professional coaching. His business has gone down to nothing.
I think I sought coaching on ChatGPT this week, and it was terrible.
Oh, I imagine it was.
And I am a certified executive coach, so I might operate with a different set of expectations. But it jumped in and it consulted. It gave me the answers without asking me what I was trying to accomplish. And I was preparing for a coaching session in an industry I had no familiarity with.
Right.
So I was like, let me give us a little help. And when I did, and then it came back and I was like, oh, this is terrible. Then of course I was immediately like looking for custom GPTs I could poach from. There weren't any good ones. And I said, well, maybe this is an agent base I need to create because it's some of the, you're the technology, you are still serving humans.
Correct.
And those human needs that we've figured out over the last 100 years are still real in terms of how to address people and finding and probing for what the problem is before you start solving it. Those are common sense for humans. And we can program that common sense into machines. I think machines will handle a lot more of the emotional tasks, if you will. A good friend of mine, my best friend here, is a therapist. She was anti-AI 2 years ago, but now she is understanding the value of those college-age kids doing some of the pre-work of really fine-tuning and swimming through all the issues to get to what is the real problem so that when they show up on her couch, then they are more prepared, more aware of themselves.
Correct.
They've been through a lot of the thinking exercises so she can hit the ground running at a higher level instead of so much intake, which makes her job more fun too because she's solving the real challenges.
But nevertheless, the impact is already there.
Yes, nevertheless, I agree. And she reports the same thing.
It's happening.
So at coaching versus counseling, two related sets of needs, just delivered differently.
Correct.
And it'll be interesting. Humans are at the base of all this, and experience, I think. What I've seen in AI is deep technical knowledge amongst some generational elements, but deep experiential knowledge for people like you and me. So you had a few decades in companies like WebEx and BlueJeans. I think that's absolutely critical to how you think about building for the future. Had you found that your past experience is deeply informing how you design technology for what's coming forward?
Well, I thought about this over the last couple of days,
Okay.
having a little idea what we were going to talk about. And then last night, all of a sudden dawned on me. I said, oh, that's right, I forgot. My father had his own company.
Oh, I forgot. You just conveniently
Well,
forgot.
no,
Yeah.
it's not been on my mind. He
Yeah.
passed like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But he ran his own management training company in Brussels, Belgium. And there was 5 kids.
Yeah.
We went on beautiful vacations. So it wasn't like he wasn't successful. Worked out really well. But he didn't teach me anything of what he did in his business. And ironically, his big claim to fame is he developed a class called Financial Management for the Non-Financial Manager. And it was very successful with large enterprises, and he did very well. But did I know how he ran his business and the challenges of running a business and starting a business and all that? He never even talked about it. So did that influence me? It may have influenced me way in the back of my head to think about starting a company again. Mm-hmm. But I, quite frankly, I had forgotten. But to answer your question, I think the sum of all of my experiences throughout my career has enabled me to be a leader, to be a CEO, to launch into this crazy idea of building a company with AI agents. And I don't think I would be where I am right now if I hadn't had all that experience. That experience came from working with large enterprises. I worked with Ford Motor Company. I worked with HP. I worked with WebEx, with Cisco. I did work, and then I transitioned over to startups. Why? I'm not sure. I guess because I got bored with the enterprise. I think I got bored with it. And because the challenge of climbing the ladder just was exhausting. You've heard of people who are enterprise survivors. I was a great enterprise survivor, but sometimes you get angry and sometimes you have to leave. And sometimes things you shake your head going, why am I here? This doesn't make any sense. And you can't control it. So then I went to startups thinking I could control things better. And I could. And not only that, I had the experience of going into all the different areas. I was in sales. I was in marketing. I was in product management. And so I had a variety of different experiences that enable me to do what I'm doing today. I also realized at the same time too that it's been really helpful that I did these things. And because if I'm trying to create what I'm creating, which is providing the tools to accelerate the go-to-market cycle, I wouldn't have been able to do it if I hadn't experience in all these different areas. So I've had experience in product management. I've had experience in actually developing and acting as a product manager. I haven't coded, although I am starting to code a little bit, and I can tell what coders are up to because of my background as a sales engineer. So I'm dangerous when it comes to that, but I can see what people are doing. I then got in the experience of doing some marketing, and I've done sales. And I was thinking about this last night. I've done sales in a variety of different ways. I was in a small little business selling equipment and high technology, actually, to put in people's home theater. And I worked with a bunch of rich people up in Tiburon and things like that. That was an interesting experience. And in Woodside, did a lot of fancy homes that way. I was selling training technology internationally. And that can be different depending which country you're in. People learn different ways. I was involved essentially in distribution. I was involved in, and most recently, I did some fun things such as product partnering and strategic partnering with companies like Cisco and Microsoft, and that all helped me tremendously to where I am today.
So I think your experience does play in to how you choose to build because of your understanding of how humans think and make decisions.
Correct.
Right? There are some younger founders that I work with, that gap is evident, that they just haven't yet had an opportunity to have the exposure to what triggers people to buy, what triggers people to shut the door in your face. They are learning those things as CEOs because they've not had that long corporate run like you and I did. And I think it's a differentiator for our age bracket coming in doing this. You're at a time in your life when you should be, like we said earlier, focused on retirement by old standards. But now, for the ones of us who are learners, who are really actively engaged in staying young by how we think and what we get to do, we're creating this new shift for ourselves.
Well, I will also say too, is I've never been so excited to be involved in technology as I am now.
Do you know how many times a week I hear that?
It's
But
just,
say more.
I thought SaaS was fun. My goodness, SaaS is now boring. I'm so glad I'm out of SaaS. The possibility, the potential is just so unlimited. One of the things that I recognize is that things will change more rapidly than even I can imagine. The question will be is how will different generations handle it? Younger generations are more flexible and they're more open-minded. Older generations will, I'll use the word find it terrifying, but will also just, they'll try to ignore that's even happening. But it's going to happen despite what anybody tries to do.
Yeah. I'm going to take a quick second. I'm trying to find a segue in what you said. Terrifying and bluegrass don't go together, but I'm going to pull it and make a quick public announcement. You guys who listen frequently have heard about the Signal Society and some of the things that we're doing in the community. And for those of you who are local, we have Bluegrass Magic coming to Felton on the mountain on July 22nd. And if you're part of a Signal Society, if you're not, you should be. And when you are, you can join the Signal Society at kpcr.org/join for a chance to win tickets to the Bluegrass Magic Mountain Grass Unit performing in Felton on July 22nd. We will announce the winners a couple of days before on the 20th. So back to KPCR, LP, 92.9 FM, and KMRT, 101.9 FM out of Santa Cruz. We have Jim Recker in the house here at the station talking about experience being used to bring, I'll use wisdom, into the design of what you're doing and of your build of an agentic AI system. Tell me what your product is focused on. We're not making a pitch. You're still very early stages, but I'm curious, what problem are you solving for the world?
When I was at WebEx, I was very fortunate to have run into the head of engineering those days, a guy named Eric Wong.
Oh, I know Eric.
A lot of people know Eric.
Yeah, tell the world who Eric is.
So Eric was the Senior Vice President of Engineering at Cisco WebEx. When Cisco acquired WebEx, there was some disagreements, and so he picked up himself and a number of people from the engineering team and went and created a company called Zoom. And
the headquarters is 200 feet out my front door of my...
I know where you live then, yes.
Yeah.
That building's very prominent.
Yes.
And I actually, from time to time, used to have coffee with Eric.
Yeah.
In the early days, he was looking for open ears and open hearts and just to get some ideas on where he needed to go. I lost touch with Eric before he became super wealthy. It was before the pandemic. The pandemic changed everything for everybody.
It certainly did.
But he was on stage last October at Zoomtopia, the annual trade show that Zoom runs. And yes, Eric, and I blame you, he got on stage and he was touting the 3,000 new features he came out with last year. And I said to myself, how did the blankety blank? I was just like, what's marketing, sales, and customer care going to do? There's no way they can keep up with that. And if you should go to zoom.us right now and look at some of the user interfaces on their web pages, you will notice that they're probably 2 or 3 revs behind. Why? Because they are coming out with new features, new releases. I would say sometimes 2 or 3 releases on the same day, but for sure they're coming out with new features and new releases the other week. And I said, hey, that's a problem I can solve. The technology is here. I don't know anything about agentic AI, but I know that's what it's there for. And I know it's there for me to autonomously accelerate the whole go-to-market process. And that's what got me started. Now, did I start up by saying that right away? No, I said, AI is the solution. And so I tried to figure out how generative AI could figure things out. Oh, it can make a social media post in seconds. And then I realized, oh, ChatGPT can do that. Why would anybody buy my solution?
People are still creating solutions to do these things.
Yes, I know. But it's just like, that doesn't make any sense. And then when I understood the power of agents, I realized, oh, this is a whole nother game altogether, because now I can personalize the whole, I'll call it the whole journey that customers will go through using code with our go-to-market products. And that whole experience will be personalized for them. the sentiments, the tone, the feel, the branding, and all that. And I can do that with agents. And that's how I got launched into what I'm doing right now.
And the problem you're solving in industry is specific to?
So it's really, for those who are involved at any part of the go-to-market cycle, you know how long it takes. You know how much the effort is. You know that you're missing key personnel to do certain key things. The money you're going to spend. And with agents now doing all of these activities autonomously, we're going to be able to cut back the time it takes to come out with a release, at least initially by 60%. The cost in go-to-market is going to dramatically come down. And the results that you're going to get are so much better, so much predictable, and so easier to control. And then autonomous things. I was talking to someone about the other day about how do people in the customer care department keep their bots up to speed. A lot of the customer care departments now use bots to answer the typical questions. Well, how are those updated? No problem. You'll use an agent that will actually easily be triggered to update the latest and greatest, so the customer calling in will always get the right support information.
Your mindset, I had to think of the word, that was my pause. If your mindset is so entrepreneurial, and yet you had a great run in large-scale enterprise corporate, and it dawns on me that you wore multiple hats. You were a sales engineer, you were a sales leader, you did several things in several different pieces of industry. How do you attribute that experience to supporting your entrepreneur? Because right now you are in 100% entrepreneurial mode.
Correct.
With the development and the technology that you're thinking about how to deploy to solve problems. So how did that variety of roles that you played contribute to you being an entrepreneur?
I've learned how to adapt to rejection.
Oh, no, that's not the answer I expected, but so true. Yes. Okay.
So when you talk about when I started to work with WebEx and helping companies understand the value of WebEx, I had to first of all help them look at what they were doing in a different way. Why are you getting on that plane? In fact, I used to do a lot of sales. I used to find myself selling WebEx in airports. This is the best place to sell. Like, why are you getting on a plane? You could do this all online. It's online. Let me explain to you what online is. And I wasn't even in sales. I was the guy actually responsible for helping companies adopt WebEx Training Center to enable their employees and their customers globally and do it much more effectively by doing it online. But I tell you, Tanya, the number of times I would run into executives that just flat refused to try to understand my way of looking at things and trying to change their viewpoints required me to understand their fears, their trepidations, and to address those first to get them to accept a new way of doing something. And this is what actually I'm going to be facing with an Agentic AI platform, such as with my company, Invenir. It's going to be a lot of pushback. And actually, I'm excited about it because I've already figured out that I know one customer, and that's me. My company is going to go to market pretty soon. That we're going to have to drink our own champagne. In talking with people around me who are all entrepreneurs, and I know they don't have any money, but they're going to be great test cases. So I know they're going to be adopting. So I'm purposely actually not going to be going after SMB or mid-market. I'm purposely going to go after that because I'm not going to go after the large enterprises. They're going to act too slowly. Plus the sales cycle is way too long. But small to medium-sized businesses, they all have these problems. A lot of them don't have the right resources. They don't have the right budget. They don't have the time. So I know there's a market out there. And as soon as we get our build finished in the next several weeks, I can't wait to get it out there so people can see how they can do things much more logically, much more sanely. But that, I think, is the best way to answer your question. Handle a rejection.
Take a look at your product when it's further along. I put 400 products into market, leading program operations for companies like Avaya and Akamai. And when you talk about what it can do, I think about the very large teams I had that were just in the mode of tracking all those pieces across the entire workflow of create, not just developing a product, but releasing it into market, marketing, customer service, tech pods, all those components that have to be part of the build. And I see how those can be automated. So I'm pretty excited about what you're doing because I see it. And I think it's going to be a major shift in how we deliver product. You talked about a 60% faster deployment time.
Indeed.
I think that's very real. I think it's going to be a massive change management effort with these large enterprises that have their waterfall. They say they're agile, but they're waterfall.
Exactly.
And we know this is an old debate, but I think the change is going to be hard.
It's going to be hard, but it occurred to me that you and I have an advantage that most, I'll call them younger founders, don't have. And that is that we have built up an ability to see, to perceive where things are going to go and where
seeing around corners.
Yes, we can see around the corners. And I have been with some projects where I could say to myself, oh, this is not going to work down the road. And so I would drift away from them. And then I've seen some great ideas that just couldn't get any traction. And a lot of it had to do with it wasn't a product that people could see helping themselves. It also requires education to educating your buyer. I was thinking the other day about the way that I was working at Oracle. And long story incredibly short, my company got acquired by Oracle, and I just the day before acquisition signed a new contract with WebEx Training Center. And gosh, I got chewed up by my boss. And then I got chewed up by a VP, and he says, well, we're going to just cancel that contract. I said, no, you can't. He says, well, why not? I said, well, this contract is for Oracle training, and they do all their training online, and this is the best tool for training. They said, no, we're going to use our own internal meeting solution. And I said, no, let me tell you something. You have to have the right tool for the job. So I actually explained this to him in a very simple manner. If you sit down and you have a nice steak in front of you and I give you a spoon, that's not going to be very helpful, is it? And if I gave you a beautiful sundae, would you want to eat that with a knife? No, you want to have the right tool for the job. And so you want a training tool to do interactive online training as opposed to doing a meeting tool, which is designed for meeting.
Right. I see that.
This is what I'm going to be doing with the product I'm building. I'm going to position it and share where it fits best and how it will facilitate and make you more productive and save money, et cetera. All the different reasons you want to buy my product.
I love it. Time for a quick station ID. We are listening to KPCR 92.9 FM out of sunny, bright, beautiful Blue Los Gatos, as well as K215GA 90.9 FM and KMRT 101.9 FM out of sunny Santa Cruz. We are here with Jim Recker in the station, and we've been talking about Jim's progression into entrepreneurship, his multiple that he's worn through a deeply effective personal career in corporate enterprise work. So I'm curious, what was the point of your pivot? What made you realize that you needed to build your own thing instead of just selling someone else's vision?
I would say first, well, it all comes back to that problem that Zoom has and a lot of companies have. I said, I need to solve that problem. And do I need to solve that problem? Heck yes, because it will get me involved with some new technology. And I always loved new technology. Again, I'm the guy who saw Led Zeppelin on stage. So I remember analog tools.
Yes.
And then we migrated over to digital tools. And then I remember some of the storage devices we had that were about the size of a washing machine and didn't barely store anything.
Right.
And of course, now you put it on something that you can easily lose in your pocket, and it has 4 terabytes on it. So the evolution of technology to me has always captured my attention, and I just couldn't see that opportunity slip away without me getting involved into it.
Very early in this conversation, we talked about people at some point outgrow enterprise work. And I think that has a lot to do with agency. The nature of the structure of big corporations has to be very rigid. And you might question the has to, but I think when you've got thousands of people working, it behooves thousands of people to be very clear on who does what and how, and for there to be consistency, because you're moving people all over the world to serve customers in remarkably similar ways. But that removes agency. And I think that the push and the growth that we're seeing in our generation coming into entrepreneurship is because we have the tools, meaning the experience, and we desperately crave that agency to make our own choices about where the future goes.
I would agree. But I'm also going to say at the same time is that I always have this passion for learning. People tell this about me. They said, you always like to learn and you're always learning the next new thing. And I said, yes. And they said, what are you going to learn about when you create Invenir? And I thought about it. I said, well, okay, I have my own consultancy. I've had some small teams work for me. I know I can manage people well. So the leadership I think I have under my belt, I'm going to learn some new technology. One of the things that has me fascinated, believe it or not, and it's probably the area that I'm looking forward to in the next several months, is I've never raised money before.
Oh, and you're looking forward to that?
Oh, yes.
Oh, my God. I think it's the hardest thing I've ever done.
It is.
And I've opened countries. I opened China 20 years ago. But fundraising is so intimidating to me. And I'm put in that position, so I shouldn't act like I can't do it. But oh my goodness, I'm intimidated.
Tanya, the last 6 months have been so eye-opening. I've had so much fun. I can see exactly.
I know you're having fun. Love this. Right?
And it's creating that relationship. I know I'm going to find those advisors, but I'm having so much fun. And where I was 3 months ago and where I am now, oh my goodness. And now I know I'm getting close because now on LinkedIn, I have people who invest who are approaching me. I no longer have to say, how am I going to talk to that guy? Yeah. I actually ran into an investor the other day who actually gave me anyway, let's put it this way. I'm beginning to figure out what the game is. It's because it's a game, what the game is all about. And I know that I can succeed in this. And I can't wait to get to the next stage.
You're still early.
Yep.
And that's a compliment. But you had an interesting post a few weeks ago on LinkedIn that essentially said that you should create a manifesto before you even begin. It was almost like used to, in the past, we talked about business plans.
Yeah.
But you were suggesting, as I recall, we should, and I think you had someone else's work that you were sharing out and saying, I agree with this. So have you created a manifesto for Invenir?
I am.
You're in the process. Good.
I have.
Okay.
I have put together a manifesto, and it actually is so long that I'm going to need to narrow it down. I've made my co-founders read it. They didn't like reading it. That's okay. And then I had to redo it again for the engineering team to help them understand the linkage between all the different agents and what the flow was. And so I spent all day yesterday putting together a huge, monstrous flow. And by the way, there's tools out nowadays where you can actually write something down and then it'll turn it into a flow for you.
Oh, Scribe. Yeah.
Well, there's Scribe and there's a couple of other tools out there. And so it makes my life so much more easier. Yeah.
But it doesn't. It does serve us and make our lives easier. Because I think you and I both appreciate, I was meeting with a founder yesterday from Oakland, and I don't want to be all about the pitch decks, but I said, creating that pitch deck, committing your thoughts to words on paper that other people need to see and consume, is such an exercise for you, not just for investors, but for you. And I'm going to say the same for you, Jim, with a manifesto, committing your thoughts into the world via print of some form makes you get sharper and clearer on what you're committed to.
I'm giggling here because I went one step further. I created a video.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Because AI tools are out there.
Yes.
So I have my pitch deck. Well, gosh, who wants to watch a boring pitch deck?
That's right.
I'm just going to do the video. So yeah, I have different versions of videos already prepared.
We'll talk after because I'm wanting to go down the rabbit hole on that. And I think that's wonderful. But that for our audience, that shows you where we're going.
Correct.
Because you're not the first one to do that.
Oh, no.
But you're a rare one to do that. No, people are just coming around to the idea.
Is there a standard pitch deck out there? We won't mention the name, but yes.
8-pager. That's the template model.
I did everything possible to get away from that.
Yeah.
And I'm able to do that now because the way, let's put it this way, investment has changed dramatically over the last several years.
Oh, and it's going to change much more dramatically in the next 2 to 3.
And I feel like I'm on that bunking Bronco and I'm just enjoying every moment of it.
Yeah. I love your attitude. And I want to make note of it because you're seeing this all as growth and opportunity and fun. And it needs to be fun.
Oh, I wouldn't do this if it wasn't fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And learning and growth can be fun. I will go back to you learn to manage failure throughout your career.
Correct.
And so you're not daunted by the no's. You're not daunted by the it's not time yet statements from investors, from potential betas.
Well,
And that was an important skill for you to have.
the great anthropologist Taylor Swift actually says this.
What did she say?
She says kids should learn to fail. Failure is good. There's a professor over at Stanford that has a post about this. And
Okay.
I just thought it was so brilliant that all the success that Taylor Swift was seeing, there was a lot of failure before that. And yes, failing, you should accept failure. It's part of the learning process.
Yes, you should. A lot of people would say she has no business saying that because she's so beyond wildly successful. But I remember her when she was like 8 years old, yodeling for a Yahoo commercial on TV. That was one of her first public, global, big things.
She learned from her mistakes.
And she's learned from her mistakes in her personal life, her relationships, her legend, and then how she's run her business and been a multi-billion dollar contributor to economies. She's amazing. I'm going to admit here live on the intrawebs, I am a big fan of Taylor Swift. Couldn't name 5 songs of hers, but I'm a big fan of what she does and what she stands for. And she grew up about 40 minutes north of where I lived in Tennessee. So I think she's pretty remarkable. But speaking of remarkable, as we come into the last 10 minutes or so of the show, one of the things that I have fun doing in the show lately is running a series of lightning round questions.
Okay.
So I think we know enough about you and what you're doing that your wit and wisdoms in a few of these questions would be fun to talk about. So one of the things that we didn't really touch on, but I think is our shared common sense wisdom, is that you need to experiment when you're going to be building something new.
Correct.
And for lots of people, they're already in jobs. So the lightning round question is, what's the best way to test your entrepreneurial ideas while you're still embedded in the workplace?
Great question. Historically, I always try to think out of the box, number one.
Yeah.
I would never ask for permission.
Yeah, that's good advice.
First, be careful what you decide to do so you don't get fired. My biggest weakness is I have trouble saying no.
Oh, I hear you.
But if you are one of those people, you can experiment and try out entrepreneurial type approaches to problems that you encounter.
Okay.
And
so be of an entrepreneurial mindset from within your structured roles.
Correct. What it really helps is to have a good manager.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've had some good ones and I've had some bad ones.
You've been the good one. I'm certain you've been the good one for.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Good. Okay. So what are the signals that it's time to move on versus staying put?
For me, that's simple. I'm not having fun anymore.
Yeah.
That's really all it comes down to. If I'm not having fun, why am I doing this? I did leave one job because they moved. I can talk about it because BlueJeans is no longer around as a company, but they were on 2nd Street in San Francisco, and then they moved to the financial district. I'm going, I'm not going to go another half hour one way. And so that was I left because of the inconvenience. But when you're not having fun, it's time to move on.
Fair. So what's one thing that you would highlight that's been a surprise for you about startup life, the life of an entrepreneur? What has surprised you?
I was thinking about that the last couple of days. I think that my biggest surprise is that I've been able to convince my co-founders to join me on this adventure, and I'm not paying them.
Yeah.
Words can be magical, and you can use words to convey your dreams and aspirations, your vision, and your expectations. And if you do it right, you can get people to do that. Now, I've had a founder drop off, and that's okay.
That's alignment. That's figuring out alignment.
No, he just didn't have, he was risk averse, and he had some challenges with another startup he was with that put him into a very precarious financial situation. So I said, great, we figured this out ahead of time. Let's move on. And in fact, he's still a great friend of mine. I'm going to go visit him over the summer. But that has been the biggest surprise, that my co-founders have stuck with me this far. And it just fills me with inspiration, and every time I wake up. And one of them actually has 6 kids, and so I'm not sure how he does it, but
6 children. I don't know how he functions with 6 children. That's just my baggage. But
and he's in a different time zone, like 10 hours away. But yet there he is every day. So that's what has surprised me the most. I think the next surprise will come when I actually see an investor give me some money.
Yeah.
That'll be my next surprise.
Yeah. And it will be what triggered them to choose you.
Correct.
That will be, I think, eye-opening.
Precisely.
What's the biggest mistake that you see entrepreneurs making as it relates to AI?
I see some entrepreneurs, how best to put this, they refuse to do the things that are below them.
Oh, interesting. I didn't expect that.
And so I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs that say, no, I'm not going to be the SDR for the day. That's beneath me. And that is actually the best opportunity for them to understand what customers are saying and what rejection looks like. I see some the other mistake I see entrepreneurs do, procrastinate. Because they have been funded and they stay in stealth way too long.
Yes.
And they procrastinate. It's like, get to market. What are you waiting around for? This whole idea in the Silicon Valley, by the way, of NDAs also amuses me. I know some people who have been in the Valley for a really long time, and they just scoff at NDAs. It's like, they're going to steal your idea. They're going to steal it. Just get on with it. Getting to market as fast as you can is the most important thing you can do.
I don't think we captured this in conversation as well as we could have, but we have to prioritize what we can do inside of this 59 minutes. But you're a marketer at heart. You're a sales guy, but you're also very much a marketer. What do you see happening that you declare dead in traditional marketing that people are just not letting go of?
Newspaper ads? Anything print, they should have let go a long time ago.
Okay.
There's also some interesting things that there are people that market that don't realize that they're capturing as many people as they could because they're assuming people are there. And I'm an older generation. Am I watching TikTok? Am I watching Instagram? Am I watching the new ways of marketing? No, I'm not. And then there's some things that I still laugh at because it still works. That little airplane with the long banner flying by the beach.
Yeah.
That still works.
Okay, I'm operationally going through the efficiency challenges of that model.
It's not very costly. Not very costly to file. I actually have a pilot's license, and flying a 172 is probably $150 an hour, and you can make money off that. And then it's a summer day, and you're flying over the ocean. What could be wrong with that?
There's all kinds of scores and wins in that.
Exactly.
I'm going to think about that. I can't tell if you're an introvert or an extrovert.
I'm both. It depends of where the social setting. And it's called, I sometimes feel that I'm certainly not a very loud extrovert when I am an extrovert. I don't go running around, but I do have people who tell me from time to time. I had one investor actually says, I want to invest in you down the road. I said, why is that? He says, because you're like that samurai. You're wielding your samurai sword and you're going through the jungle and you're not letting anybody stop you. I said, yeah, that's me. But at other times, I'll hesitate to go up to people.
So what's your best networking advice for introverts in tech?
Don't hesitate to speak up. You're not going to hurt anybody's feelings. And I think that's That's what I realized about myself, is that it's better to speak up and get shut down than to not have spoken up at all.
If you don't ask, you don't get.
Correct. But
It's still
sometimes
like that every day.
I still hestate.
Yeah.
I do sometimes get starstruck. Doesn't happen very often, but
Yeah. I remember when you met me. I'm kidding. Obligatory kidding. We have a mutual friend that I recall was part of our initial introductions.
yes.
At a pretty large event, I'm thinking about a mile from here. So last question. What's the best career advice you wish someone had given you at 30?
At 30. How much time do I have here? I would say the best advice I got when I was 30.
That you wish someone had
Oh, you wish I had someone to give me at 30 is get out of enterprise. Because I still was with enterprises. Actually, no. Yes, I was still with enterprises. And I did on my own accord. I also wish that somebody had told me to invest better being here in the Silicon Valley. And that's something I regret. I fortunately bought a house 30 years ago, and it's all paid off. I wish I had continued to invest.
Yeah.
Because opportunity is all around you, and investing is a lot of fun. And hopefully someone will find that out when they invest with me.
Excellent. Excellent segue into how can people be aware of you? How can they watch what you build and grow and be in touch with you if they're interested?
So to start with, LinkedIn is going to be a place to find me.
Beautiful.
And I'm going to be posting more regularly now because I'm getting out there, so to speak, and making sure people know what we're up to.
For people who are listening, your LinkedIn handle is?
It's JC Recker.
Okay, so it's JC.
Yep.
Good. And I will put that in the show notes for
Okay.
anyone who's listening who wants to reflect back on something written. So we'll put that connection point so they can follow you, track your ideas and your development successes, and then invest.
And I should also say that the website is Invenir, Invenir .ai. And what does Invenir mean? It means to find, to discover, in Old Spanish.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And that's what I'm doing.
And that's a memorable story. I love it. So Invenir.ai, JC Recker on LinkedIn. Please keep up with this man. He's going to do some important, wise, wonderful things as he resets not just himself, but entire industries with how they approach solving complex problems more simply, more effectively, so we can put more in the market faster with happier employees doing it. So I think it's going to be brilliant to watch you. Thank you for being part of the show today.
Thanks for having me, Tanya.
We do this. So give me some love here on our screen as we thank our audience for being with us and being part of this journey. So many people are going through transitions and resets now. And what I really took away from today was to not fear it, to jump into it, to embrace it. Look for the fun. If you're not having fun, you're in the wrong place.
That's correct.
And you can transition and pivot as much as you want to find that sweet spot that is where you should be. And Jim, I think you're doing that.
And I had fun today. Thank you for having me.
It was such a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Pleasure's all mine.
Everyone, this has been Reset with Tanya on KPCR 92.9 FM, K215GA 90.9 FM, both in Los Gatos, and KMRT 101.9 FM in Santa Cruz. Let's go to the beach. Everyone, have a great day.
Thanks for joining us on Reset. Remember, transformation is a journey, not a destination. So until next time, keep exploring what's possible. I'm Tanya Long, and this is home. This is Reset.